What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and today I got Aaron here. Aaron, do you say Guzman? Guzman? How do you say it?
I say Guzman, but
Guzman.
Guzman works. I say Guzman, but Guzman works. It all works. I'm good with either way.
All right.
Whatever's comfortable for you.
Well, I try to say it the way that you say it because that's the way you probably like to hear it, I would assume.
I spent my life being called Guzman.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Aaron, so I'm good with it.
So we got Aaron here, who is a mini comic maker, even in the present. And he makes comics with another guy named Jason Alexander, who's right next to him. How are you guys doing today?
What's going on? How's it going?
Doing well.
Doing good. And you can find some things like what he is making at the moment. You can find them at minicomicbundles.com.
Yes.
Right here. And
get them, y'all.
You get awesome art like this. You get some cool writing from Jason Alexander and some awesome art from Mr. Aaron. And it's all good stuff. I love it.
Awesome.
And there's a link in the description as well if you just want to, you're too lazy and you just want to press a button. So that being said, I did want to, just give you guys all an update. It's been a while since I've been on this channel doing a video, and it's not that long, but it's been like about a little over a month, I think. So I just wanted to say, first of all, I changed the name because some of you might have seen the big announcement where I was like, I'm just gonna change this channel to kind of whatever I want to do and this and that and blah blah blah. I'm going back on that. I'm unpromising the whatever. Like I changed my mind because as I thought about it, I'm like, I can't see myself like serving this community with something totally different. Like, and I still love comics, so I'm just going to do it this way because I just don't feel comfortable doing it that way. So I changed the name back to Marsh Makes Comics. I'm going to do more comic content here. And I made another new channel. So now I have 3 YouTube channels. So I made another one that's just for my own music to experiment and do music-y stuff on, called Planet Plex. There, I think, is a link in the description. There's a link, or there will be a link in the description. But just go to Planet Plex. That's my thing. And I also have the Beat Brothers, which we kind of basically do a podcast on there. But if you want to hear the weird music I've been working on, that's where you can find it. But here we're gonna do comics and art/comics. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I've been itching to get back into creating comics in a way that we're going to talk about today, actually. And I told you guys about an idea I had, basically to merge the music with the comics and stuff. And I'm like itching to like start character designing and stuff because I don't know. I have these ideas and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to being part of the AAA community and not being the head of it necessarily as much. Which I heard today, there's an announcement in there. Apparently they've changed the name of my group to the apes, the AAA. I don't even know. What are we calling this thing now?
Are you even allowed back in? Your keys still work?
Apes. So what is that? You got like a fog breaker cup there?
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Yeah, look at that.
That's awesome.
My cousin made it.
Yeah.
My cousin made it. I love anything with my logo on it, but like this is my favorite thing right now. It's my all-day coffee cup.
That's awesome.
So
that is awesome. I love that. I'm gonna have to have him make me a Donkey Jaw one.
Yeah, I'll send you a link over at Hoyt Creations, man. That's awesome. I'll see you in Messenger.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all of my updates. I don't know. I probably had more, but who cares?
You derailed him with your cup.
Yeah. I was
Fill them
distracted
in
by
as you go.
So today I wanted to you can probably see the title of the thing, don't dream big, we're going negative today. So
That's why I'm here.
that's why we brought Aaron in.
I wasn't gonna say it.
But initially I wanted to talk about, I think Jason came up with the idea, or somebody came to me saying we should do a mini comics video, and I agreed, and so this is kind of that. But I kind of have this angle on it where it's like this kind of dreaming big thing, and I have this kind of theory that kind of dawned on me today. I mean, I feel like all my theories end up being the same thing that I said before, but it's like just a slightly different angle on it, but whatever. So basically I feel like, because I said before, like I have this like equation, it's like exploration plus experimentation minus purpose equals art. That was like this thing, and there's a personal thing. Not everybody agrees with it. That's okay. I don't even love the minus purpose part, but it's what the reality has taught me, for me personally. But I think I'm almost replacing the word purpose now, because I'm thinking like this whole idea of like kind of dreaming big, because I feel like since I was young, like I have always like kind of dreamed too big a little bit, like a lot of bit. I always take on way more projects than I can actually physically do. I have an idea and it turns into like this mammoth, like we're gonna make movies, like type of thing. Like when I just started with like a sketch or something, and like so I think sometimes I get like tripped up by this like idea of kind of dreaming a little bit too big, or a lot too big. So I don't know. Like, and I think about this mini comic thing, and I think about other examples I've seen in the world of people doing things. And I've been learning guitar lately. So this is only my second weekend, but I've also been studying different bands, especially the Beatles, just because I love them and I love songwriting and stuff. And I think about like these guys, the Beatles, they didn't like they're the biggest group almost ever, pretty much. And they didn't start off thinking let's be the biggest group ever. Like they started off doing cover songs, and they really just wanted to do
Right.
cover songs. They didn't even want to write songs. The only reason they even started writing songs was because what they would go on before that, like the headliner, or they'd go on after certain people, and they all the songs they wanted to play, the band before them played already. So they were like, well, we can't play the same songs, we got to find new ones. And then they find new ones, and the bands would play those songs before they got on. So they're like, the only way we're going to get around this is if we start writing our own songs. They can't play those, like so they started writing their own songs, and a lot of work, and the rest is history. And I mean a lot of work. These guys were, it's been a hard day's night, like they did work hard, like so like and I think Aaron knows a little bit about hard work, so does Jason. And even small tasks, as much as they seem small, I mean, especially when you're talking about comics, even small tasks are really hard. So I do think, especially with comics, thinking a little bit, like dreaming a little bit too big, has hindered me, and I've gotten very overwhelmed. I don't know. What about you guys? Do you guys feel overwhelmed by your projects ever?
Yes.
Constantly.
Today, right now, immediately. I'm looking for my iPad right now, but it's you do it anyway sometimes. I love it. It's all I got right now, so Aaron won't let me quit. I'm not being held hostage, but Aaron won't let me quit.
He's being held hostage.
So, it's it's everyday hard truths. Aaron is very honest, even when you don't want him to be sometimes. So you learn a lot about yourself, like, but you don't quit. So it's tough, but because people are getting them, we're in, and it goes and goes and goes. So it's ever changing, and it's a lot of revisiting, a lot more revisiting than I thought, to be honest. But it's beating me to the point where I get it. So now it's like, now let's see what I can do while I get it.
I don't know if we can see him blink with the reflection in his glasses, though.
Yes,
so
watch this slowly.
That's funny.
Oh,
I like this
man.
one too from good old Frank. Dream manageable. That is so uninspiring, though. Dream manageable.
I mean, Jason's right. Jason is 100% right. I mean, it's the honest truth is it's painful.
Yep.
Making comics is very painful. I think that even with these mini comics, like you said, Jason, once it became real, once we put it up there and people started purchasing them, at that point, now you're on the hook.
Yep.
You're on the hook, not only because, monetarily, your reputation's on the hook.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have to deliver now at that point. And yeah, it has not been easy. We're only in the halfway point now. We've been bumping heads. There's been times we bumped heads. Plenty of times we bumped heads. But at the end of the day, that's what happens when you don't know someone and you start working with them, right? So you're trying to develop a relationship with the person while you're working, while you're trying to figure out how you're going to navigate through this project that you didn't totally think through.
No, it's
and purposefully though, it purposefully was not thought through all the way because I have a habit of planning to oblivion. So you can stay in that planning phase forever and never move forward. And so since this was going to be my first real, my real go at trying to break into the comic industry, and I knew I didn't want to try to work for any of the big three, not that it's possible now, but I knew that wasn't even, that's a lie. I knew they wouldn't allow me to work for them based on how I am. And so the only way to jump in was to just commit, even though the plan was half-baked. I mean, and so that made it a lot more stressful than it should have been. But now we're at the halfway point, and now things are flipping the other way. Now it's all right.
Yep.
See the end. Could look back and see all the mistakes we made. Now it's time to make some adjustments, move forward. So
yeah. And
so everything's downhill from here then?
It gets harder.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah, it's bumpy. Yeah, we don't have brakes. We used all our brakes going uphill. And so now this is scary. Like,
you used
going downhill.
You used your brakes on the wrong side of the mountain, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Jason thought he knew how to drive stick. That's what happened. Jason thought he knew how to drive stick going up the hill, and he burned through our gears. And now we're just flying down the hill.
Wow.
Yep. So,
and something weird is that somehow the downside part of the mountain just happens to be longer for some reason.
Yeah.
It's where everything happens though, right? That's where you're going to learn. That's exactly. Yep. That's where you're going to learn. That's where, we just went through this really, really bumpy phase where you basically want to quit every month, right? Yeah. Because it gets that difficult. And
it's hard. You use all your continues, but you gain so many items. You're like, okay, what's next?
Well, I mean, I seem to feel like this is a reoccurring nightmare, if you will. No, issue. Like, Jason, I've heard you talk many times, and I've heard you say almost the same exact thing when you were doing 100 Days of Making Comics the first time. And then when you were doing it like the second time, and this is like, I think this is just the pattern of creativity, really,
Process.
it's how it goes. Like I'm learning guitar now, and like just like I was trying to learn the E chord, and it's the E chord is like notoriously hard, or not the E, the F chord is notoriously one of the harder chords when you're first starting out. And it's like I was doing it at first, and I'm like, this is impossible. How does anybody do this? And there's so much way harder chords than that, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, this is impossible. But I just kept trying it. And like 10 minutes later, it wasn't even impossible anymore. I was like pretty much doing it. Like,
Right.
but I really felt like, how does anybody do this? Like, it's crazy. But yeah, you push through, and like you said, you gain some items and stuff. You know, you actually get things. You know.
Yeah, you know, it's almost like learning a different language to work on a project this long at first, after doing the hundreds, because that was like the test, and then it was like the second time it was supposed to be for fun, but it was longer, and I didn't enjoy it as much. And then like doing this several times, I'm like, I'm gonna start the hundreds while I'm doing this, because I'm doing it already. And then I'm like, but I'm doing it already. I'm like 64 days in at this point. And it's just gone, like since September, it's been nonstop with this. But you know, Marshall, like creativity does not stop. It doesn't care what you want to do sometimes. Mine happens to be writing. So it's great for what Aaron and I are doing. But then because I also see more things, I'm also responsible to get those things down also. So it becomes it's very tight. And it's, for me, with my upbringing, it's very restrictive creatively at times. Then I remember I'm straight up writing whatever I want. I have to retrain my thoughts here. And that's okay. And that's hard for me, but that's okay. So you lock in and you do it. And now it's 6 months in, and there's been arguments. There's been, disagreements. There's been like completely not seeing the same comic, even though we're reading the same script. But now it's like, we look back and like Hourglass was like it was the get by comic. And now that's like, look at Hourglass. Like that's something to see. We really lost control of it, and look at it now. So it's been very rewarding, but it's been really, really hard. I'm ready to be done with mini comics, but I'm enjoying the rest of the ride.
Because you have to.
Yes. Yes, and yes. It's like I have to, and I have to. So
you know what I equate it to working out. In all honesty, it's the only thing I can think of that even comes close, where you have to do certain things or it won't work, right? You have to burn more calories than you're consuming. You have to lower your sugar. You have to do resistance training, that type of stuff, right? If you don't do that, you're not going to get whatever your goals are. You're not going to meet them. Comics are the same way, right? When you're working out, it hurts. It doesn't feel good. It hurts. But what happens is you deal with it, and what makes you want to keep going back is when you start seeing results. So you start realizing the more it burns, the faster I'm going to reach my goal, right? You don't actually enjoy the pain, but you start to accept the pain as part of the process and know that without that pain, you're never going to reach your goal. And it actually has to hurt more and more every time you go, because your body just starts to acclimate itself to whatever the other level was, right? Whatever your other threshold was. This is the exact same thing, only it's 100% mental. Right? Like I hear people all the time saying, if I could, I tell Jason this all the time, oh man, if I could draw for 8 hours, it's like, you would never want to draw again. That's what would happen. Because you're not sitting there drawing for 8 hours. You have to draw for 8 hours. Every single day. And And we're saying 8 hours. I don't know who draws a page in 8 hours other than, speedy guys. But you're going to be drawing all day. The joy leaves at that point. There's no joy in that. Now you're working. You're sitting there and you're building perspectives, and you're sitting there and trying to figure out camera angles, and you're redrawing panels at 5 days later because you realize, oh, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't fit. It's part of it. It's just not enjoyable to actually build it. But
interesting. Yeah.
In the beginning, you're doing the roughs, you're doing your layouts, you're figuring out the story. That's the most fun part for me. The part that I'm complaining about right now is the actual drawing, the penciling of those panels is what I do not enjoy at all. And that's where all the labor is. Oh, that's where the consistency of the character has to come in, the model sheets, your perspective has to be on point, your shadows have to be on point. I can't stand doing any of that. I love inking because that's when I actually start to draw. Because at that point now I'm not thinking anymore and I'm just letting it go free. Right. So, but that penciling stage, that's my headache. That makes comics unenjoyable. After I'm done inking, I can't wait to work on the next comic because I love it. You see what I'm saying? And
I could totally see that, because the penciling stage is when you have to work everything out. You have to make it actually work. There's totally is that type of thing. Like you have to bring something from nothing to there. And then it is. It's funny to hear that because I'm sitting here looking at a page you drew for Janaconda and I'm like, it's so good. It's so cool.
You can't believe I say that every week. I say it every week. Whenever I see a finished page, it's like, oh my gosh. Because you know how it is, Marshall. It's like you write something and you see it a certain way when you write it. But then when you see it how you thought it better, it's pretty cool. It's really, really cool. And so it's like you get invested. I get invested to see it every month, just like everybody else does. It's like I'm always excited to see what they look like finished. So it's very rewarding. But
it's that way when you write your own comic as well, because as much as you might have a vision in your head, you don't see, like he said, you work it out on the page when you're in the middle of it. You don't really see it. You see kind of a partial vision of it, and once it's finished, like you said, I really enjoy the inking phase as well, and it is like drawing for me as well. So but once you get to that, again, like you said, it's like you see the reward, you're like, this is great. Like you said, I want to do it again. Like I pretty much agree with you 100% on that. It's just like that.
It's like imagine getting in the ring with Mike Tyson and knowing it's the worst idea ever, and Mike Tyson just hits you in the ribs as hard as he can, and somebody just lays a stack of millions of dollars on the mat beside you, and you're like, maybe that didn't hurt as bad as I thought it did. Let me see if I can stand in front of another one.
You're coughing up blood.
And so it's been rough, but it's like my core is strong now. It's like I'm in now. So it's like let's see what else this can do now.
Or it's like never again.
I've said that a few times.
That's what Jason's thinking as he's in the hospital room in traction.
Oh man! Well,
what was that?
He froze.
This discussion hasn't gone quite the way I expected it.
I told you, I'm so sorry. I approach things from a negative point of view a lot of the time, and I don't mean to, but that's the only way I personally can get through. I need the stress. I need the resistance in order for me to get through. So I actually highlight that part.
Well, actually, it's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, I remember growing up and being in this situation where I'd be like my stepfather, he'd be working on his motorcycle or his bike or like his car or something, and all of a sudden like he's getting like angry and frustrated. I'm like, did I do something wrong? And he's like cursing at the thing and stuff, and he's like doing the wrench and all the stuff, and then he eventually is done, and the car works or the motorcycle works or the oil's been changed or whatever it was, but he had to like almost fist fight with the thing before like with his words, you know. And it's like there is an aspect of that where it's like sometimes you just need a little anger almost to like push through. Like you need to kind of get frustrated at it and like hit it hard, you know, to really make it happen.
I also need distractions though. So,
Yeah.
I was telling Jason the other day, I can only draw for so long before I need to jump off and do some web type of work or something.
Yeah.
Or open up a 3D program, or I need to do something different, or else I'll start to hate drawing. It's, is at that point, again, it's the mindset, right? It's you're not doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's where, well, I know that's where my stress comes from. Is I won't work. I can't convince myself to sit there and draw a 30-page comic for myself. I'd sit there and be like, why am I doing this? There needs to be a reason, so I need to distribute it. Well, if I'm going to distribute it, then I need a plan. All right. Well, if I need a plan, now I'm probably going to need partners, and then next, you know what I mean. So it becomes big. It just becomes big, and that's what happens to me all the time.
So I mean, actually, that's a good jumping off point to kind of part of what I wanted to talk about here was like, so like that's the problem with me is like I get these big ideas, you know. I have these like big dreams and stuff, and it's like the truth is like again back to the weight training and stuff, like you can't go into the weight room and lift the heaviest weight, you know, from the beginning day, you know, you can't just go do that. You have to work up to that, you know, you have to do the small weights first, you know. And so, you know, it's just like, you know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You can't eat the whole elephant right away. Like, you know, but you know, if you just take like a little piece of things, and like you said, you have like a system where, you know, you can't draw the whole thing in one sitting. You have to break it up into, you know, pieces and stuff, and you need to take breaks and all that. And there's a lot of that, like even with the music I've been doing, even there's some of it's like really super enjoyable, but after a few hours you start getting frustrated and you're like things aren't working. You hit a wall of like diminishing returns where it's just like you can't keep going. It's not going to even be productive anymore, you know. So stop.
But you have to
take a walk, do something.
But that's right there. That's where you have to. That's the part. That right there is where we all convince ourselves, all right, I need to walk away from this thing and take a break. When I say I need to jump off and do some web work, it's directly related to what I'm drawing. If I'm doing 3D, it's directly related to what I'm drawing. So it's one of those things where if I know I'm jumping off to the web work, I know why I'm doing it. I'm procrastinating. And now I'm trying to justify my procrastination. So the only way I get around that is by adding another layer of work and stress by going, well, if you're going to do web work, then I guess you're creating a web page for the subscribers and you're doing it from scratch. Oh, wow. I guess you got to figure out now how to get that database working. So you better learn that. So now I opened up a new wormhole for myself, right? That forces me to run back to drawing, right? Because I just ran into something scary. And that's literally what I'm doing. So I go in there and I'm like, all right, I've been doing web development for a while, but I've never created a database from scratch. I've never used backend services. So now I'm learning all that stuff. Now it's scary. I don't know what they're talking about. It all sounds foreign to me. It's intimidating. Time to go run back to my drawing where I have confidence, where I feel strong. Now, when I get back to my drawing, I actually feel better about what I was doing because I just got my ass kicked. over in web development. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, from a creative standpoint, I try to keep everything active in terms, and when I say everything, I mean the skills that I need to survive, right? So being self-employed, my main source of income is construction visualization, which means 3D programs, motion programs, and design software, right? Like the Adobe package and stuff like that. So I have to stay sharp in all of that, right? But on the flip side, I have the drawing, which doesn't utilize any of that. So what I do is I find excuses or reasons to cross-platform, across my workflows.
Yeah.
So I get stressed out on drawing, and I was explaining to Jason that I have a problem. One of the things that stresses me out is not being able to visualize the environment that the story's taking place in. And if I can't picture that environment, I can't draw it, right? And then that comes from my day job, right? Because I'm basically constructing buildings all day. So what I'll do is I'll sit there and I'll actually build a model of whatever it is I'm supposed to, whatever that environment is, and that becomes my photo reference. See, now I can pick my camera shots and do stuff like that. It takes more time for me to do that, but it's serving a dual purpose. One, it's keeping my skills sharp on the 3D side when I'm not doing that. And on the flip side, I'm helping my drawing by providing myself with reference so that it helps the drawing move faster. But the key is that as one gets very stressful, I'm always jumping to the other and trying to push myself there. And they sort of chase each other out because I get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to move, right? The key is you have to stay uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable.
You have to create new.
That's the part people don't want to hear. You have to be uncomfortable if you're going to meet deadlines.
Yeah.
One of the toughest things that me and Aaron always, we don't butt heads on, we just disagree on the wording of, is I always see the corner. And I'm like, if we can hit this corner, this is going to get a little bit easier. And Aaron's like, nope. No, it's not. It's not going to get easier. And I'm like,
you're gonna hit that corner and get knocked out.
It's always, Aaron is my all day reality check. And I was telling them the other day, it's like sometimes, like in my quiet moments, I can hear Aaron say, Jason, it's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to hurt. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's supposed to hurt. And off to work I go. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be writing. It can be anything because that's just what it is. Sometimes you gotta do it. It's gonna hurt. It sucks to go out in the cold and start your car sometimes, but how else is it gonna start? It's not going to. So you just gotta do. And this is what dreaming big looks like. Aaron will build a structure around your dream sometimes. And it's like, I'm 40 feet off the ground now. I got to finish this floorboard now. And here we are, 6 months in. What's next? I'm ready.
And this is a tiny project. And it's already this. Well, to be honest, think about it. We're making mini comics and we're throwing them in the mail. Like, how hard is that?
It sounds simple.
It sounds simple.
That's what I thought.
Again, if you look at, and I think a lot of people forget this, look at the comic industry. They use teams. They use teams to make manga. They use teams here. Yet here, everybody's trying to do everything by themselves because they see that unicorn that was able to produce that book that was gold all by themselves. It's like, do you realize that person obviously has no life? Like, does anybody realize that? Like, go watch those Todd McFarlane videos. You're drawing 14 hours a day. Yeah. You're not talking to anybody. You're not going anywhere. You're sacrificing a lot. And at the end of the day, though, that's what it really comes down to is, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And you have to be honest with yourself, though. That's the thing. You have to be honest with yourself. If you really want to do no matter what it is, if you really want to do it, then it's going to hurt at times. I'm making it sound like it hurts all the time. It doesn't. Sometimes drawing these comics are easy as hell. It's just when it's painful, it's overwhelmingly painful. you want to quit, you know.
It just is frustrating because they are mini comics. That's the reality. Is like, why is this not a 4-hour project? Why does it not take 4 hours to put a mini comic together? Nope, wrong. Because guess what? Somebody liked them last month. They have to be as good, if not better, because somebody mentioned one thing on one page that they liked. All right, here we go. Strap in. It's got to be even better. Polish it some more. You know, so it, yeah, 100% all day long, and to each other, even when you hate it, and especially when you hate it. Now you need to hear it.
Don't ever call me if you're on the ledge, though. I'm not the person to call if you're on the ledge. I'll start questioning why you're on that ledge. I may agree with you.
Yeah, you're right. It is bad. Maybe
you're right.
You know what? After hearing you through, jumping is the best course.
Wow. So speaking about jumping, you're basically, I think what I hear, what you're describing is, if you want to make comics and you have big dreams, create a pool of punishment and jump in and sink or swim.
No.
It's create a pool and then accept the punishment.
So
once you're in it, it's not all punishment.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm making it sound horrible, and I told you that I would do that.
That's okay.
So, but here's the thing, though. Going into this, I realized right away I was going to need someone else to help me. Like after I did the first ones, I was like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. Like there's no way I'm doing this every month. I don't have my stories lined up.
Yeah.
I didn't have stuff prepared. And so, you know, Jason and I started talking. That's when that happened. I don't think I would have been able to, I know I would not have been able to do it on my own because it's not paying anything really. You know what I mean? It's not, I still have to work. So because of that, there's no way I would have continued with this if I didn't bring in someone else. But again, that's my background. I got very used to having a team. And so once you have a team, there's no going back. I mean, once I left where I was and I started working on my own, the first thing that hit me was, holy shit, you have to think differently. You can't have like grand ideas no more. You don't have that team to turn to help build it. It's like, it's just you. And so it took me a year to figure out how to take my ideas and start shrinking them down to figure out what I could do, because I couldn't come up with anything that wasn't going to require a bunch of people in order to get it done. And so I think
that's a good point though. Like we've had this tradition in comics of, teams creating comics. It's never been a one-man show except for, like you said, those unicorns. And even then, usually they have a team too helping them. I mean, even Jack Kirby, like all he did was draw. He couldn't even. There's people saying that he couldn't even drive without driving off the road because he was thinking comics all day. Like, so, like, and his wife was like a huge part of why he was successful. And so other people too, like there's all kinds of things. And so why do we all of a sudden, okay, yay, indie comics, why do we all of a sudden think we can do it alone? And why don't we team up more? Like it is kind of crazy.
Indie comics stuff, right? Like Ninja Turtles, that's not a one-man show. I mean,
yeah,
you get the best. It's well, putting ego aside, because that's the main thing. Everybody wants to do everything themselves.
That's I was gonna say. Nobody wants to share the pie sometimes.
It's natural. Yeah, you just want to do it yourself. That's a natural thing. I wanted to make these minis by myself.
Well, I mean, you know what? Like, we got this guy right here. This thing's pretty cool, by my buddy Russ Leach, and he did a lot by himself. But even he works on comics, and he did the parts by himself that he normally does by himself, except for I think the writing he doesn't tend to do by himself, but he had help with that, and he had help with a lot of the other aspects of it, but he did a lot of it himself. He's a professional. He's been doing this for a while.
How many bottles of Jack
kind of in the flow of it, but at the same time, it's like, even he didn't do it by himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have some people.
Right. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to finish it, you have to. And that's the key. You want to finish your project. It's. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm just saying that if you want to actually produce something, it's best to find people that you can work with. And look, you don't even have to really get along that well. You just have to be able to click from a creative standpoint.
Be committed.
Yeah,
I get along with three people.
It's like marriage. You don't have to get along. You just have to be committed.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it. I was telling Aaron, like, when we were disagreeing one time, I'm like, always know, man. It's like, I'm mad, but I'm mad because I'm doing it. I'm doing it a different way. I'm mad because I am redoing it. It was never a quit thing at those moments. Sometimes you just don't want to. Sometimes you just don't want to do it anymore. But it was too much work. But I knew I had to do it, and that's why it was too much, because you don't know. It was like standing in the tide. You just don't know how you're going to get that next breath, and then you do, and then it's like it's a little bit longer. And I feel good now, but it's not.
This is a dark episode.
Hey, you know what though? That's what's needed though. Like you only hear the other side most of the time.
No, it looks cool.
Sad is that I'm always that guy that comes in. You know what? We need a rainy cloud in here.
The cooler it looks, the harder it hurts. Like, and it's just the way it is. The only way I could do that, because what I learned in the hundreds, I draw really slow. Like, in a scale to do both, I draw slow. I write.
Are you sure you draw slow?
Draw sequentials. I draw sequentials slow.
What's I hear that all the time. John Byrne, Jack Kirby, who else draws 4 pages a day? Like, historically,
right?
I think everybody is slow. I think everybody's slow, to be honest. I think it takes.
Well, that's one thing you mentioned McFarlane a few times, and that's one thing that I love that he says. He's like, nobody draws fast or slow. It's just do you sit in the chair for long enough? Like,
sure.
Sit in the chair. You got to sit in the chair and draw till you're done with the page.
Eat it. Yep.
And that's the pain. That is the pain.
That's it. I want to write. I'll stand in and write like that more than I'll stand in and draw like that, because sometimes that hand gets the best of me, and I don't want to redo it anymore. But I can write my way through that. Working with a team allows me to 100% do what I do best in our team with all of my focus. And Aaron does so much. And it's not the way I draw, but he does so much to put that finish work on that it makes you push a little bit harder on your side. So, but the finished project is it's awesome.
Oh no.
Like, the finished project is awesome.
When I open one of these up, and like, not only is there an envelope with a mini comic in it, there's these.
So much art.
And then when there's this, then the mini comics are in a bag, and there's one of these around it. And in one of these tells a little description of this. Like, I've done things like this. I know that it doesn't just happen by itself. Like, you have to design this, you have to write the little things. Like, it takes a lot of time just to package it up, just to fold the comics. Like, it's painful almost to open it, because I'm like, I would just put the mini comic in an envelope. Like, like, what are you doing? Like, you'd be lucky if I put anything in there to keep it like from bending. Like,
Each level would be good on its own, but you get it all together every month.
yeah.
And it's like, I love opening the minis every month. I really, really do. You know,
Everything you just described is the stress.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything you just described is why it's stressful.
That's it.
Because
Yep.
you're
what I
like
mean?
you're not
It's
only like,
also why
oh,
it's enjoyable.
I just have to finish this comic. It's like, well, when I'm done, I have to do that, and that too.
And I figured out I have to do it the other way. If I do all the other artwork first, it makes it more fun to draw the comic. Because if I
Yep.
draw the comic, I don't want to draw it. I'm done. I'm burnt out. You know. Meanwhile, those are all scans and stuff from like sketchbooks still.
Yeah, but even that, you still have to format it. Like, it's a pain in the
Yep.
butt to do that stuff.
Well, I mean, I have to clean it up, and a lot of times I have to redraw it digitally, so I have to trace it because it's literally sketch or whatever. But that's the heartache right there. That's the pain, is knowing that all that has to go into it. But that's what makes it enjoyable. That's why I'm saying it's really a love-hate thing for me,
Yeah.
personally. You know,
Well,
but
that's
again,
one thing
that's
too.
I like it with everything.
I mean, that's one thing too. So, like, you know, Jason was talking about this too. Is like, I feel like previous to me kind of taking a break from the channel and comics, you know, I was trying to like be a workhorse with my comics and trying to make it happen. I had all these projects in mind, and it's like, but I would try to do them like kind of quick, and I'm like, what's the quickest way I can do this? You know, I don't care about quality and all that stuff. Like, and I still have sort of that mindset, but I'm there's also this side of me that like really likes to do a detailed drawing of somebody that looks just like them. Like, I love doing, like, I just can enjoy doing that process and noodling. And I'm like, well, if I really like doing that, but I'm not doing that because I want to get the comic out, like, I don't know, there's something about taking the time to do that detail and really enjoy that part and offer something that when you open it is a really fun thing to open and stuff. Like, I do like that. I'm skimping on it because I know comics are hard and I want to be productive or whatever. But it is worth it. It actually is worth it to go through that process, to focus and to let yourself take the time to make the thing really cool. Like, there's a big part of that that's really worth it too.
So that's inks for me, right? That's when I told you I enjoy inking,
Yeah.
because basically at that point I'm no longer really thinking about. I'm only thinking about structure. Actually, you know, the lines are all there. I worked out whatever I needed to work out. Now I'm putting in detail. The thing that I enjoy about and what I hate about it, because I've complained about Hourglass to Jason every single month, because I decided to use hatch lines. And if you want to draw fast, don't start using hatch lines, right?
No.
And so
I tried that myself before, yeah.
but I realized that, okay, I like the way it looks. And so if I left that to the inks, it was way less painful. You know what I mean? So if you were to look at my pencils, they don't look anything like my inks because it's just very loose lines. And I actually do draw with, you know, at the inking stage, especially digitally, right? Because you can just erase it. So when I do that, it allows me a little more freedom. And now I'm just drawing as if I was drawing in my sketchbook, one panel at a time, right? And you're just drawing in your sketchbook. And at that point, now I'm just kind of getting lost. If I can get into that zone, that's the joy. You can't get in, I can't, let me not say you because other people can. I can't get into that zone during pencils because the enjoyable phase again was the rough stage where you're just really figuring out very loose gesture drawings and just trying to figure out your cameras. That's fun, right? Because you're just reading through the script and it's really like your first time. But then pencils, like you said, okay, now you have to clean it up. I rarely do clean pencils because then it becomes unenjoyable, but mainly because then things become stiff. So I realized that if I leave everything out except for just indicating where the shadows are going to be, I can draw all that with ink. Then I won't mind if it takes me longer. because once it's done, it's done. And every panel you progress through, you're seeing it finished, right? So there's just that satisfaction. And at that point, all that pain, all that anger from the pencil stage goes away. And now I'm like, all right, I'm almost finished this. I can't wait till it's done. And then I love when I print it out and I put it in my little book and I look at it and I go, oh shit, look at all these comics I did. Holy cow. I didn't think I could do a draw, this much. But you got to get through whatever.
It's crazy because in Hourglass specifically, I see a progression. Like every issue looks better than the last one. And you see it. Just look back at issue 1 and look at issue 6. Like just the covers alone that last cover is so intense. It's so crazy.
What you were talking about before. The first issue was meaningless.
Delivering on it. Yeah. But it's not though, because it set the stage. And it's like,
I meant now. From a production standpoint, I didn't care. There was no expectations. I just threw it out there, right? Like you said, oh shit, somebody paid and they liked it. Yeah. Now you're thinking more. More people paid. Now you're thinking even more.
Yeah.
More people, now they're commenting about it. Oh God, now I got to make sure this looks a certain way because it dismounts the stress, right? But then, like I said, at some point you just flip the switch in the middle of it. That only happens during the phases you hate. Like whatever it is, if you don't like writing, that's going to happen to you during the writing. If you don't like inking, that's going to surface. It's going to rear its head during inking. For everybody, it's going to be different, right?
Right.
But ultimately, I think Marshall, going back to actually, we were talking about this before you came in. Having that structure in the beginning of the project, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're working with a team or by yourself. Setting that structure, outlining exactly what it is has to be done. And I know this isn't something that people normally do unless you're like in a marketing team in corporate America or something where you have to do that, right? Because you have to show it to other people. But when you break down all the tasks that actually have to be accomplished in order to put that comic together, that's another way of helping you get through it. Because then, you're going to see this giant list, but you would have broken it down into these minuscule little tasks that individually, none of them are shit. None of them. If you look at it as a whole, you're going to walk away from that project. So that was like the main thing was I needed to see what this was going to look like over 36 issues. How big was this project? Jason told you he freaked out when he realized it, right? When I looked and I was like, okay, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it and I was like, okay, this is going to be bad. Right.
Did you break it down did you break it down by like calendar days? Some people do that.
Yeah, I've tried many different ways, so I'm trying to figure out a workflow. Right. That's the other thing. I'm not comfortable doing this because it's the first one that I'm doing. So, and I don't mean this is the first comic I'm drawing, but I mean this is the first product I'm trying to put out there in comic form, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously there's like underlying branding associated with it, meaning the packaging and how it looks and the consistency, how it's cut. That's got to be worked into the workflow, figuring out how many days it actually takes me to draw this, which you always end up underestimating.
Yeah.
Always. So I've just always accepted that because, I know I can probably draw one, not probably, I can draw one page in 3 hours, 4 hours, but I don't know what that's going to look like. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't guarantee it's going to look like the last issue. Well, that's not acceptable when people are paying for a product. That's so you have to, it's just, it becomes more than what you think it's going to be. So, outlining days and trying to figure out, a time frame in which I was going to get certain pages done, a time frame for roughs, a time frame for inks, a time frame for meeting with Jason and going over, things in terms of the story that have to be fleshed out more in order for me to move forward and draw it. All of that we try to break out, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So at the end of the day, what I had to do was sit back and go, okay, well, let's look at it as I had to look at it per bundle and just basically say, okay, you have 4 weeks in a month, you've got 3 bundles plus artwork, you've got 1 week to do each of those things. Mind you, I'm 2 months behind right now. Right? So I'm 2 months behind, but that's because of the day job. When I have a paying project that comes in, that's obviously got to take precedence, right? And every time I get a day project that comes in, it literally pushes back our schedule 1 to 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I remember you talking about this before you totally got into it, and you're like, my goal is to be like, I think you said something like 3 months ahead of schedule or something like that.
And
It's
now I'm
not
too
easy.
behind, right?
It's really hard to do that though.
And we had a buffer, and I had a
Yeah.
buffer in place that just got eaten up. And again, it's a good and a bad thing. It got eaten up because I got more work than I thought I was going to get, which is a good
Yeah.
thing because I still
Yeah.
have a house, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, on the flip, and plus that's actually that's how I'm paying for this stuff, right? That's how stuff gets made. And that's the other part that I guess people don't really think about other than the structure is how are you going to finance this? Everything
Yeah.
costs money, no matter how little it is. You know, it's just a stamp in an envelope. All right. Well, how many of those do I have to mail every month? And then
Yeah.
global, you know, the global stamps, and what happens when I have double stuff, and what happens when I have an oversized package and now I got to take it to the post office. And I told Jason, I'm going through way more toner than I anticipated, and the costs are going up, and I'm like, holy crap, this is way worse than I thought. But it's I'm making it sound a lot worse than it is. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
just
you suddenly realize that that you're also taking on the job of printer and publisher, you know,
yeah,
all of a sudden, you know, and
yeah.
you know,
It's
and
Don't
one
realize
thing
it's
is it is hard to it's pretty hard to make comics without without shelter. So, you know, like you said, you got to take on the day job.
but you know the main thing here is we're looking at the customers, right? So at the end of the day, if if you're dreaming too big, like you said, which I don't think you can dream too big, to be honest. I just think you can approach that dream the wrong way. You know,
That's a
you can
great
walk into
way to
the
put it. I
gym,
love that.
you
And I
can walk,
think that's really what the point was, is like,
yeah.
I'm not approaching this right, you know.
It's 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 the structure. It's the ugly parts that I love bringing up to Jason because it makes him miserable, and I love making him miserable. Right?
It's your
It's
new
that
hobby.
it's that discipline, right? And it's
Now that comics is like your work, now you need a hobby, and it's to make Jason miserable.
ah, that's the most enjoyable
I
part of
love
my
it.
day. That's the most enjoyable part of my day.
No,
So Ariana asked this question earlier. Marsh, are you back to making comics? Before I had this discussion, I was thinking about it. I kind of am, but now after, I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you
Yeah,
are.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a drug. I can't get
you
away
have to.
from
You have to.
it.
It's
There's no
part of
way
it.
to get out of it.
You just need to in all honesty, I just, and this is just from my perspective, I just think you just need to structure it and just say, okay, you
Right.
know, figure out what it is you want to do. And after you figure that out and go, okay, well, I want to put out this book. All right, but what does that mean? Like, you want to
Yeah.
put it out where? Alterna? You're going to publish it yourself? You're going to print it at home? You're going to print books? Like, what does that mean? Because if you don't factor all that in, it's not real,
Yeah.
right? It's not
Well,
going to be real to you.
what I need is a team, so I'm gonna call up Aaron and Jason and add something else to their plate.
You know, like this, like me and Aaron are the flip side of the coin of dreaming big, because I'm like you, Marsh. Like, I have all these big ideas all day long, and Aaron is consistently saying, you can do all this stuff. Like, we have the stuff, you can do it all, but you have to do it all.
Yeah.
And then you have to do it all. And you always have to do it all. And it's like, I started seeing the end at about month 4, and Aaron was like, nope. You got
That's
a
the
lot
wrong
back
end.
in. Yeah. He's like, you got a lot back in. I need you all the way back here. And from month 4, like in comic book count, from about 4 to 6, it was tough. Like, but now it's like we start to see, like, okay, here's what dreaming big does is, if you fight through it, now you say, okay, what can we do? What can we do after this? Not really after this, but next month, but are these stories like growing more branches now? And it's a pretty fun process once you get over what it takes, but it takes a lot all the
So I
time,
mean,
but
we blew it
in a
up
good
though.
way.
We took it further than the original concept was. The original concept was just really to get our ideas out quickly. Make mini comics, get the ideas out quickly, figure out what you want to work on, and then pick one from here and try to develop it into something. But then this became the product. The fact, all these little mini stories, this became the product. And at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is develop a customer base, I guess, is what we would call it, right? And so the minis, the way I look at the minis, this is basically our entry point into comics. But what we're really trying to do is get people onto the website that I'm creating for the subscribers. And it's going to be a subscriber exclusive type of thing where we're going to have web comics on there and stuff like that. But that's really where we're going to push forward with future work. That's where we're going to try to interact with the customers more and see if there's something that resonates within one of these stories or something, if there's anything we should think forward, anything. Just try to develop a really small, tight community type of thing. And I don't mean community like a Discord community. This is more, like, what do you want us to produce for you? Like, what are you interested in? This is what we do. Just trying to find that small niche of people that are into what we're into, that are digging what we're doing. And, that small circle, and then everybody supporting each other. You know what I mean? They're trying to blow it up. For me personally, I have to make money. This isn't for fun. And I don't, and that's why I'm so dark about this, to be honest with you, is because no, it's not for fun for me. Like, if I'm going to put this much time and this much energy and study, because you never fully know what you're doing, right? So you're constantly learning new things. If I'm going to be putting all this energy into this, I need to be able to pay a bill or two. You know what I mean? And when I say a bill or two, I mean mortgage, not little bills.
Honestly, I think in the art and creative communities, but money always gets a bad name, that kind of thing. And I actually think it's a really valid motivation. Like, I mean, it's obviously you have to live, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's probably would sound weird for somebody who doesn't do like art to, like, yeah, obviously, but like, but like, as an artist who's very artsy fartsy, it is like, I don't see it as cheapening the art. I mean, you're talking about it's a job and it needs to pay some bills. Yet the stuff I've seen you produce is some of the coolest stuff I've seen, like it's not cheapening your art, and I think the product's better for it, maybe even.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I appreciate that. I am trying to just draw fast. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to produce great artwork. I'm trying to produce cool stories. So I mean, that's another thing. Comics is not illustration, right? So it's about the storytelling, not so much about the style. All that does come into play, but it's the storytelling at the end of the day, right? I mean, how many of us have bought cool comics because they look good, and then start reading through it and realizing that it's very boring, but it's pretty. You toss it to the side and never look at it again. And then I'll bring up Jack Kirby, because everyone goes through that phase of Jack Kirby sucks until you're older and go, oh my God, he was a guy, right? He's brilliant. Yeah. Look at the shorthand that he produced in this. Look at the language behind it, right? Yeah, I mean, but it is a business. If it's not, I mean, for some people it's a business, right? And for some people it's a hobby.
I mean, again, with Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, like, there was a lot of pragmatism that created those comics. It wasn't, just let's do the most awesome thing we can think of and let our imaginations run wild, even though it almost seems like that, because it was an amazing feat of imagination. But like, these are the comics that people still to this day love. These are the stories that people still to this day love. But it was born out of we got to make this thing work. We got to sink or swim, or else it's done. Like
Right.
it was a business.
I think people romanticize it too much. I'm like, Jack Kirby sat in front of his desk all day long. That is not enjoyable. I don't care who you are. You start to hate what you do after a point, but you're good at it, so no one can tell from your work. And I'm not saying that he was miserable or anything, but there are times where it just becomes work. It's like showing up at a job that you hate every day, only for 5 minutes. Because I'll be honest, right? For me personally, and I told Jason this, my goal. I mean, I worked my whole life in corporate America. Once I was pushed out of that world, right? Because I keep saying I left, but I was pushed out of that world. You can't get me to go back. Yeah. I'm living life on my own terms right now. Are you kidding me? There's no way. So what do I need to do to keep this? How much do I have to bleed?
Yeah.
How bad do you want it? It really comes down to that. How bad do you want your book produced if we're talking about comics? I look at Gary Hodges. He knows I talk about Gary Hodges often. And if Gary's listening, don't get your head big. But, it's one of those things where I watched his videos and I was like, look at this guy. It's on a fucking schedule. I can't stand him. Look at how disciplined he is. Right. And that feeds me. I see people that disciplined. I look at people like Peter Seckler that are just like machines, just producing day in and day out. And when I don't feel like drawing, I'm like, Peter's drawing. It's like, he's getting his work done. Get your ass up and get to work. I get motivated by peers. I get motivated by indie work. I don't get motivated by Jack Kirby, McFarlane, and any of those other guys. To be honest, because it's not about the visuals, it's about the ethic behind it. He is here.
So what do you think about this? This is an interesting comment from the man you spoke of just now.
We ought to get everyone on the team equally enthusiastic. It's impossible. It's impossible to get. So Gary, you and I come from. I did something similar to what you do. Or I do something similar to what you do. I just did it for a company before. So, it's almost impossible to get everyone feeling the same way about it on a team. And you just have to leave those people behind, man. It's there's nothing else that can be said about that. It's about moving forward, and you hopefully can get the best out of that person while they're working on the team. You make it as valuable for them as you can.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's going to be up to them whether they want it or not. And
I can definitely speak to that, because, when you're working in the day job, especially if you have like somewhat of a lead role or whatever, like nobody's they're going to do stuff because they have to. They're not going to do it because, if I do this, this, and this, it'll make this better and this easier, or it'll be a strategic thing to make this work. They're not thinking about that. They're just like, what did the guy tell me to do? I have to do that. I don't feel like doing that today, but I'll do it a different way because I feel like doing it this way, and that's
where you got to let them own it. You got to give them something to own. If you have a team, you can't, you literally have to break that process. Like Jason gets to write whatever Jason wants to write. Yeah. He is the creative director. He is the lead. That's his job. If I don't like a story, I'll tell him I don't like a story, but I'll tell him why I don't like a story.
Right.
I'll still draw it if I don't have a valid. I didn't like Paranormal. What is that one?
Paranormal Protocol.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. I'm joking.
Me and Aaron both were like, well, we don't want to do comedy. Like, of all the genres that we want to do, like, man, we don't want to do comedy.
That was the last one.
Yeah.
But it's Jason's call, right? So it's one of those things where if you're gonna have team members, whatever their roles are, they gotta own it.
Yeah.
If they don't own it, they're not gonna be vested. If they're not gonna be vested, why are they on your team?
Yeah, I agree. Because like even my own day job, like I tell people this all the time. Like the day I walked into that warehouse, it was my warehouse. Like I owned it. Like even though I was the new guy, like to me, and I think that attitude is why I'm still there and in the position I'm in. You have to own it. And I agree, like you can't just like walk everybody through every little thing. You have to be like, no, I'm not doing that for you. You have to figure out how to do that. And you'll figure out your own way, and I can give you some tips, but
that depends. That depends. So for me, and if you were on a creative project, hell no. Here's how we do things. Here's how this needs to be done. You can figure out everything in between your workflow. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean within the kind of the details and stuff. Okay. But yes, there is a certain way it has to be then for sure.
Yeah. And you figure it out how to do it the most efficient way for you, so that whatever.
Yeah.
I thought you meant you can go in there and like figure it out.
But you have to give them, like you said, you kind of have to give them that little bit of freedom, because nobody wants to be a robot. You can't make a human be a robot. It's not going to be healthy, or it's just not going to work very well.
They're going to produce garbage.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what happens. I mean,
right.
And Jason, even like within Jason's writing, I can tell when he's enjoying writing comics and when he's not. You can tell. There's when he's enjoying it, I have very few questions. When he's not enjoying it, I'm like, all right, who are these people? Like, where are they? and there'll be a lot of information missing, because you can tell he just wasn't focused. He was just trying to get it done, as opposed to trying to do it the best he can within the time frame that he had allowed for. Whether it was going to be complete or not.
Right. Much more of a finished writer through this project. And it was almost through like fighting through bad habits. Like, this is how I write. But it wasn't necessarily the right way to do it. So it's like, now it's like, to be so short is almost a challenge in and of itself. But
oh yeah.
And then next month we'll look at what we're doing now and shit on it and say, oh, we still don't know what we're doing.
Right. Yeah.
As long as it gets more efficient, as long as it gets better. Right.
I don't know what it is. There's like a quote or something, some famous historical person, I think they wrote it in a letter, and they're like, I'm writing you a long letter because I don't have time to write you a short one. Like that, editing it down and making it concise and efficient, that's work, and it takes time.
That's the penciling stage. That's the penciling stage. All right, let's see all these lines and trim them down into a final shape here. And you're like, oh no, that shape's not working with my perspective or with my concept, and then start from scratch.
So many times I'll have a script done and Aaron will say, okay, where are we? And I'm like, it's in the setting. He's like, no, where are we? Once he sees it, you can see how good it's supposed to be. So if he's locked in, it gets pretty specific, and I love it. So it's can it be done, and then can it be done a little bit better? It's a push every month as a creator, because now it's like, now you're writing, but I'm writing full time for what I do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not writing as a hobby anymore. So it's a challenge for sure.
It's funny. I'm just trying to think like back to when I wrote the Janaconda thing, and like there wasn't too much of that, but there wasn't also I feel like the same pressure so much. I think there were some questions like, how do these monkeys look? But like,
yeah, I didn't have many questions. Again, you.
I think part of it too was I could, like, you were like, can you like draw me the idea or something, even if it's rough? And so I kind of did that too. So I don't know.
A visual person, I just can't. I'm terrible at character design. I don't enjoy it. That's not something I enjoy doing. I like the storytelling, right? So I even told Jason recently, I was like, yeah, feel free to draw whenever you want to. Like, if you know what this person looks like if you have an idea of what this scene should look like, sketch it out. It doesn't mean I'm going to follow it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Janaconda's supposed to be blonde, but you made her a brunette, so I don't know.
Yeah, why did I do that? There was a reason. There was a reason. It had to do with laziness. It had to do with the hair. Oh yeah, it's a lot harder to draw. I could fill in dark hair with black.
Right, there you go.
I don't have to figure out where the strands are going as much and stuff.
Yeah. There you go. So, all right. Well, yeah, this was definitely interesting. I don't really think we did exactly the topic that I thought we were doing, but man, I think we got a lot of cool stuff out of it.
What was your topic anyway?
Yeah,
it was
this is the cost of dreaming big. I told I told Aaron just the other day that he was my ghost of Christmas past, because it's like you can be a part of the fantasy, but it's like Aaron is like, here's your reality check. I can take you there, but this is what you got to do to get it.
It's a different version of Don't Dream Big. I was gonna like take something kind of positive and start with work on small stuff. This was like Don't Dream Big. In fact, I'm gonna squash all your dreams and like lay them out.
Yeah, but it's like
no. So in the reality is it's dream big. Like I said before, I just think the approach. I think everyone that doesn't complete their books or whatever it is probably most likely thinking too big for themselves, right? Like I said, you're thinking in terms of a team, whether you realize it or not. Everybody else has teams producing these. Scale that down or break it down. And I've seen a bunch of the again, these are the indie guys that are actually producing their books consistently. They're breaking these things down. You're taking your entire story arc and breaking it down to books, from books to chapters, from chapters to sections, down to paragraphs, and just really making it small. And then every task, like if you just did that up front, and I know that's something that everyone finds boring, right? But that's that structure you were talking about, Marshall. If you establish that structure in the beginning of clearly defining your goals, first of all, like what are you creating and why are you creating it?
Mm-hmm.
Like the why, I rarely ever hear the why. And that's why people stop working on their projects or quit their projects. Why are you working on that job? Why are you putting in 10 hours a day on your book? To show it to the Discord?
And
because you're not going to finish that book.
and also, not only that, but paying bills can be that why.
If paying bills is the why, suddenly you'll realize, yeah, this is tough, but I can do it, right? It's what's your motivation? If it's finish the book, if that's your motivation, and seriously, you just really want to put out a published book, do what Gary did, man. Sit down and break that thing down into a weekly schedule or bi-weekly, or anyone's on the fence, pick some of their books up. Solid.
Thank you,
Speaking
man.
of Gary,
I
agree. I wanted to bring that up as well. There is a link in the description. You gotta get in on this. I mean, you just heard how hard these guys work at this. They're not.
The reason why Jason's in front of the camera all the
time. Because I talk too much. No, I'll say what's crazy about this today, Marshall, is I got into minis because of your video. I bought an iPad and started doing minis because of your video.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
2 years later of dreaming big, I guess I'll say, the same thing as Aaron, but I guess a little bit different is it can be as good as you think it is. It is as good as you think it is. The biggest dream you have about it, it's that good. That idea of this turning into a movie, it's all of that. But how do you get it there? And can you get it there? Because you have a kite on a planet that has very little wind. You have to effort.
You have to blow
it takes a lot of effort.
You have to make the wind.
It's insane. You have to build a fan. You have to build a fan to make electricity. You have to make electricity to build a fan to make. It's like Dr. Stone. just to
You know
fly
what I
the
did,
kite
Mark?
sometimes.
You know what? So here's something. One of the things that I did before even jumping into these minis was for the past 2 years, I've been training towards this. Even though I didn't know what I was training towards, I knew that by the end of the year, I needed to jump in on a project and produce something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where all these challenges, Inktober and stuff come in. You know, I mean, if people really want to get into finishing, and look, I don't have comic books out there, right? But all I've ever done within my life is finish projects. That's what I always got paid for: finishing projects, creative-based projects. So comics is no different. This isn't any different than what I do in the daytime, except I'm drawing instead of producing a 3D model, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, I mean, it just really comes down to training yourself to do it. And if you can take advantage of these Inktober's and stuff like that and use those to, I literally did that with Inktober, right? That's that 2019 book that I put out there. That challenge was 31 days. And so what I did was I said, okay, well, let me build a little story. I didn't do the Dave Hingley thing because his kicks ass. He built a whole comic book around Inktober. So
Oh
I just
no,
did
Aaron, yours looks good too.
Yeah, no, but Dave Hingley put in a hell of a lot of work in his. Those are 30-minute each drawings or 60-minute each drawings, whatever they are.
Yours looks
So
so
what I
good,
did
man. I
there,
love
though,
yours.
that was part of my training because I wasn't sure whether I could sit there and produce a comic. So I was like, well, if I can't produce 31 ink drawings in 31 days, you know, within an hour each day, because that was back during the 100 days and stuff too. I was trying to restrict my time, not caring at all about the result of the art. That's the key, though. You just have to throw that away. If people did more of those type of things, when you sat down to do your comic, you're not going to be intimidated by it. Plus, you're going to be more used to figuring out and structuring what it is you have to do. Because when you take a challenge like Inktober and decide to put it together as a story, you do have to plan that up front, even if it's just a half hour. So I would sit there every morning for half an hour, plan out what I was going to do, and then give myself another half hour to draw it. So it was a full hour. So it was kind of like your 1 hour comic thing, but just a one page, right? And I did that for 31 days.
Yeah.
I fell behind so many times. On the last day, I had to produce, I think, 5 drawings on that last day in order to make it in time because I fell behind. That was difficult as hell. But when I was done, I was so proud of myself. Like it was one of the few times where I was like, holy cow, I almost quit. I almost, but it was huge because then that helped me jump into my webtoon. And that gave me the confidence to do that.
That's such a cool, yeah. It's like you're learning and experiencing how to go the count, like how to get the whole way through, because every project I've heard you do, even our project that we worked on, like I'm hearing this thing where you fell behind, but you finished it. That's the difference. Not everybody finishes it. People fall behind and they stop.
I'll always, other than the construction projects, I always miss my deadlines. I can't miss the construction deadlines at all, or I'll never eat again, right? But that's the same thing here. The reason why I'm missing these deadlines is because I've got a little leeway. If there was absolutely no leeway, I wouldn't even be falling behind. But Jason already knows on the construction side, he's seen what happens to me. That sometimes could be, an 18-hour workday straight for 3 days straight, so that you end up sleeping 10 hours a day for the next 2 days. You know what I mean? The comics would be that as well, but there's no financial motivation for that. Yeah. And that's the key. For me personally, it's about I need to live, I need to eat. So when I'm working on a project, it doesn't mean I won't work on a few projects on the side for fun. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously not during the minis, because that's impossible. But and then you know what? After these minis, I'll probably want to do that just to get away from this for a while. No, I won't. But it's one of those things where you just really have to train yourself to do something, which means just the little bites that we were talking about in the beginning, just taking pieces. Well, do a mini comic. Well, but put some time constraints on that project, whatever it is. And, and that's, again, it sounds like doom and gloom because this is the part that's not comfortable. If you're actually comfortable, you're not going to finish your project. If you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I got all day to do, you're never going to finish. If you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I said I was going to have this done and it's got to be posted and these people are waiting for it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for my day job projects, I wouldn't be behind on these at all. And I can't be any more behind than I am, to be in all honesty. So it comes down to priority. It comes down to management, project management.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Being realistic. And
there's
being
very
100%
few.
realistic.
There's very few projects that I've finished without a deadline. And I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's one or two, but it doesn't. If I don't have a deadline, I'll stretch something out forever.
Yeah. I told you, I mean, poor Peter, you know, when I was working on that cover, the deadline kept getting pushed back. So the cover kept getting pushed back because it's just, it's one of those things where I was always working on it. But if you're going to give me an extra day to work on something, I got to fix this arm. I got to fix this leg. And then it becomes a head. Then you start erasing an entire person and redrawing them. And then it becomes, holy cow, I left out this cat, right? You'll always find something to render on there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it comes down to the structure. It comes down to being realistic about whether you're taking on too much. And at the end of the day, if you're not sure, test yourself. Test yourself with these little challenges. They're all over, right? If you can't complete that challenge, and be honest with yourself, if you can't, like the 100 days of comics, if you can't sit down and give yourself 30 minutes a day for 100 days, that says a lot. That says about how much you really want it. And that's when you have to look in the mirror. And it's okay if, you know, if it's too much. If it's too much and you go, I can't do this, then scale it back. Just scale it back, you know. Take whatever stress is off, you know, like, well, I was going to do a 3-book series. All right, how about you just turn that into a 1 8-page mini, like an introduction? Or if not, if that's too long, about a mini comic.
and that really is the exactly where I was trying to get at with this. You know, it's like dream big, but like you have to break it down and you have to make it manageable. You have to realize that you're only one person, you know. Maybe you need to work with a team, like you just have to break it down, you know.
Or maybe you have to push your schedule out. Like if you're going to be the writer, the letterer, the artist, right? Maybe it's not going to, and then maybe you can't do it within a year. Maybe you need to give yourself 2 years. But if you're going to have such a long deadline where you have all this opportunity to quit, then you've got to have milestones in between that, where you're being held accountable to somebody else. Unless you're that disciplined. Well, no, if you're that disciplined, you wouldn't have any problem finishing your book, right? So you know you have to hold yourself accountable to somebody. Yeah. And again, that like I'm not a big fan of the 100 days of comics and doing that stuff because again, I can't spend all that time doing it. But I did it, right? Because I had to prove something to myself. That's important. Like that, I can't say that enough. That is probably the most important part. Prove to yourself that you can do it, because once you have that belief and the actual proof, meaning you drew something, don't just say, oh no, I could do it because I did it. Where's the work? Where's the project? Like at the end of this, Jason can't say he can't write anymore. He wrote 36 books. You know?
Yeah. And look how many books we're producing every 100 days now. That's 3 months of minis. That's a lot of books, and they're good books. Like that's the fruit. Like if you're serious about doing the hundreds, you're serious about what you're doing, this is it. Like it's work. Like you got to climb the Himalayas to get the fruit, but once you get there, man, it's worth it. It's worth every bit of it.
Just the process. So it's like you said, Marshall,
dream big, but
it's going
call
to
it
work.
A dream or do something about it. Yeah, call it a dream or do something about it, and that's fine either way.
And that I need to clarify, because this thing is called Dream Big and stuff, and it's like we haven't done shit. We're sitting here just putting this thing out. It's not.
We're dreaming big. We're dreaming big.
We're dreaming big, and Jason's finding out that I don't really dream. That's all. That's Jason's nightmare. He's finding out I don't dream. I plan.
Aaron is like John Stewart Green Lantern, where like even from his ring projections, every nut and bolt is precise. It's like everything is perfectly level. It's built. So you're on it. Like, and you got to match it. And my writing has to match his artwork. And Aaron can draw, like Aaron can draw. So I got to bring it too. So
there's a lot of people that draw better than me on this thing.
But these look good, straight up. So me and Aaron work well together, but it's not without its work. I guess I'll say it that way. We enjoy it, but we come to work every day.
Like he needs a pain in the ass in his life. That's what he needs.
Yeah, well, maybe I do. I don't know. I mean, I've done it. Trust me, I've done it. You know, like
you want to have nightmares?
Relate. What's that?
You can call me if you want to have nightmares. I mean, I'll be happy to.
You're like the Freddy Krueger of comics.
That's 100% Aaron.
I just really enjoy planning. I like the strategy part. So, you know, for me, this is, you know, Jason keeps talking about the end and stuff. I don't see an end. This is a stepping stone to the website. To the crowdfunder, which is a stepping stone to wherever that leads.
That's the thing too. I did want to mention that I really love what you guys are doing, just in the strategy of it too. And you're starting with one thing and you're building to the next thing and building to the next thing. But like with this whole structure of the mini comics a month and building, you know, the audience, like most people aren't doing that. Most people are like trying to get a comic book done so they can do a crowdfunder, and that's their whole plan. You know, what you're doing is, I think, really smart, and a lot of people don't build the audience first, and that's why, and then they do their crowdfunder and wonder why it doesn't work, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't know. I think it's cool because, first of all, one thing is, that's not the only way you can do something with comics. Like, just because that's how people tend to be doing it, that doesn't mean that's the only way. And one of these days, that's not going to work anymore. So, you know, I think it's pretty smart.
That's why the website's so important. It has to handle the digital content that we're going to be producing outside of the physical books, or else you know, if you don't have digital content, you're going to be missing out. At some point, it's going to end up, right now, we'll just say 50%, right? The reality is it's probably 70-30 already. You know, most people are looking at stuff on their tablets and their phones, even if it's a PDF or if it's a webtoon type of thing. It's the convenience of being able to see it at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So it's about, you know, developing the content for it.
The ones who sell comics the most, you know, is Japan. They way outsell anything we don't even come close in America, and they even had to stop printing so much and doing more digital. You know, so if that's them, you know, that's where everybody.
The print is never going to go away.
Yeah.
But you'll go away if you don't go digital with it. I mean, you know.
I think you're right with that. Yeah. For sure.
You go the way of Blockbuster. Blockbuster's the lesson for everyone, right?
Yeah. The precautionary tale, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I think it's been a really good conversation. I think we kind of did get to it, but in a different way than I expected. But that's okay. That's okay. I think people did.
Last stream of 2021.
Yeah.
I was going to say, welcome to minicomicbundles.com.
That's why we focus on horror, because it's a horror.
It ain't easy.
It's real. That's funny. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on and talking about this. Once again, check out minicomicsbundles.com. It's in the description. And you know, I'm gonna keep I think I'm back on the cycle here with this. I think the way things are laid out now with my YouTube channels and stuff, it's like, for some reason, having it sectioned out is making me think of it. I need to think of the things sort of separately, even though they combine in different ways. And so I feel like I have breathing room now to work in each section. So I don't know. I think it's going to work out. We're going to have some more videos. And I'm getting back to comics. I'm itching, man. So, and maybe I'll talk to Aaron. Maybe he can help me take the belt out and help me out a little bit.
Pootie-tang. Somebody find that Pootie-tang gift.
So yeah, and everybody's saying they're glad to hear me back and stuff. So thank you. I really appreciate that. So yeah,
whether you want it to be or not.
Yeah, now I have that accountability like you guys were talking about. Thanks a lot. So with that, thank you everybody for watching, hanging out, and chatting with us, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks a lot, Marsh.
Take care.